Here on YouTube, there is no channel that is as enigmatic of the indie animation scene as Glitch Productions is. You see, Glitch Productions, started by brothers Kevin and Luke Lerdviggal, I hope I pronounced that right, is now a behemoth of the indie scene with such wonderful masterpieces under their belt, such as Murder Drones by Liam Vickers, The Amazing Digital Circus by Gooseworx, Knights of Guinevere by the legend Dana Terrace herself, Gaslight District by Nick Shoshko, I definitely butchered that one, I'm sorry, and finally Gameoverse by none other than Rubber Ross himself.
I was on a server that allowed emotes, so I made my own by animating stupid memes and putting them into Minecraft.
What on God's green earth is that sh**?
Aw, dude!
The work that Glitch Productions has put into propping up the indie scene is insane and highly commendable. We love to see an independent studio sticking it to the man, for example, and getting a theatrical release for one of their greatest IPs of all time. While I understand their insanely fast growth can be seen as off-putting, and how some don't even consider Glitch as quote-unquote indie anymore, the impact that Kevin and Luke has had on independent artists all around the world is undeniable. When analyzing the immense success of the Amazing Digital Circus, no one could have predicted the sheer magnitude of commercial success that it initially saw. I think Glitch had every right to capitalize off the success, and the deals they've made with Netflix and theaters will only serve to pave the way for all future independent artists to come, regardless if they partner with Glitch or not. See, a lot of people on the internet are saying that Glitch has only just made it so that the only way an independent artist can see success is if they go strike a deal with Glitch. But I don't think that's true at all. I think that Glitch has a very specific flavor of content they like to produce, and not everyone's art is going to fit in that very specific bucket. For the record, I mean a strong female protagonist, as well as a strong theming of sci-fi, AI, video games, or the like. There are plenty of independent shows or pilots that do see a lot of success without Glitch's input at all. I mean, for example, we have the second biggest independent studio to come out of the indie scene, Spindle Horse, right? Or more widely known as VivziePop. Vivzie and her two shows, Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, are two great examples of indie shows succeeding independently from Glitch. There's also the Planetronica pilot that recently came out, and it's showing a lot of signs of success online. With all that being said, Lucky Aura crew, I wanted to talk about how I believe there will be no show like the Amazing Digital Circus ever again for a very, very long time. You see, I've seen a lot of people online showing enthusiastic excitement over Glitch's latest pilot, Gameoverse. This pilot has garnered over 10 million views in just the first week alone, now sitting at 28 million views. When this pilot came out, so many people were saying that Gameoverse is going to be the next Amazing Digital Circus. Here's why I don't think this is necessarily going to be the case. You see, the Amazing Digital Circus was extremely marketable. Keyword extremely. In fact, when Gooseworx initially pitched the show idea to Glitch Productions, she actually pitched 3 different show ideas. Glitch chose TADC due to the character designs being very marketable. They were sold as soon as they saw the designs for both Pomni and Kane. This is something that they've admitted, I think even Gooseworx has said online. Goose herself is very good at creating eye-catching and marketable characters. Think Little Runmo. With Glitch saying that Pomni and Kane's designs were the most Gooseworxy, right? I think that the vibrant colors and the character designs, along with the fact that TADC is actually more of a character-driven show, makes the Amazing Digital Circus the perfect recipe for widespread appeal and success. Like, any given fan of the Amazing Digital Circus would probably tell you that they relate to one or more characters in the show. I know I do. For me, it's a little bit of Kane and Kinger. Anyways. Now, as for Gameoverse, the pilot did show a lot of promise for its initial success. Over 10 million views in just 1 week alone is pretty crazy. That's, I think, on par with, if not better than, Has-Been Hotel's pilot. But the recipe for that success is different, however. And I believe that the audience it's reaching is both different and somewhat more niche. Gameoverse's pilot was unique in a couple of ways. One way that I don't see too many people talking about is the fact that this pilot isn't really structured like a pilot at all. A show's pilot is made usually to serve as a way to sell the idea of the show to its audience and the producers. Take Has-Been Hotel's pilot, or TADC's, for example. In TADC's pilot, it touches on every story beat that you're going to see for the future of the show. It establishes Kane's drive for control and how he's an unreliable narrator. It establishes that players can conjure, abstract, etc. It establishes the adventures in every character's archetype. With Has-Been Hotels, it establishes that it's a musical, the set and setting, all of the characters and their relationships to one another, etc. But for Gameoverse, yeah, it does establish the setting and the rules of their world. It introduces the main cast to the audience, but something feels different about it. Rather than being contained, like an all-in-one, here's what the show is gonna be like TADC. Gameoverse's pilot really feels like a first episode of the series. It's the little things that do it for me. Like Crab Girl, a character that's clearly set up to be just this punchline joke character that's just for this episode and is probably gonna be thrown away for the next one. You don't see that in a pilot typically. Typically, a pilot is only going to showcase the cast that you are going to see throughout the show. It's selling you on the cast and the story, remember? Take TADC's pilot, for example. Even characters like the Gloink Queen is actually, in some part, kind of integral to the plot. Not only does the Gloink Queen make a return in future episodes of the show, but the Gloink Queen actually even serves to showcase a little bit of Kane's god complex. Another thing that makes Gameoverse feel like a greenlit first episode as opposed to the pilot is how it's structured. Typically, a pilot is going to kind of focus on introducing the cast of characters to you pretty much right off the bat. It wants to introduce to you the cast of characters you'll be following in this show, and they want to kind of pitch it to you, right? With Gameoverse, they structure it in a way where you don't realize that Flappers is going to be a part of the main cast until the very end. Or like you know nothing about the Sephiroth character that we only catch a glimpse of in the beginning. Gameoverse clearly has big plans for the future of their show, and they're confident it'll be greenlit. They're not selling you a show, they're showing you what's to come. They're like, hey, we have a show for you, get ready, it's coming. It's not like a, hey, we're selling you this idea, are you guys excited for this? Do you guys want this? It doesn't feel like that. That's the perception I get when watching this pilot, quote unquote, right? Lastly, this episode is a beach episode right off the bat. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because it puts the characters into a situation or world that they aren't likely to ever be in again, at least for the duration of the show, right? This is the biggest thing that goes against what a pilot usually aims to accomplish. With a pilot, what you see is usually the most status quo that it's ever going to be in the show. Like a here's what to expect. And in Gameoverse, they open with the main characters in bikinis. And that is not status quo, right? Take Has-Been Hotel, for example. Has-Been Hotel's pilot takes place in the circle of hell that Charlie lives in, you know, her hotel takes place like everything you see in that pilot is what you see for the duration of Hazbin Hotel going forward, right? You don't see that with the Gameoverse pilot. So now, I do not believe we'll ever see Kit or misinformation in bikinis ever again in any other episode of Gameoverse. The reason they were in bikinis was to serve the story, actually. It wasn't really Gooner bait. They were in an underwater level, so of course they're going to be in swimsuits. But this just goes to showcase my point. Gameoverse flows more like a standard greenlit episode of a show. They're not concerned with establishing certain tropes, at least not in the typical way. Because they do establish the set and setting. They do establish the rules and the characters. I'm not saying they don't, but they go about it in a very, quote-unquote, non-pilot kind of way. They briefly show Kit and Kaboodle's past at the very start of the show, but then they get right into the story. I think that's very interesting. The most pilot-y things about the show to me are these two clips. The beginning scene, and also this scene where Kit kind of tries to break the rules. Like, telling one of the characters that their world will end if they win is explaining to the audience the rules of the world, which is a thing that pilots are meant to accomplish. But it's the delivery of it in this show, right? Now, what does the structure of the pilot have to do with the future of the show's success? Well, I think it provides some clear insights into the direction that this show is taking. Gameoverse feels more mature. It's not afraid to appeal to an older audience. The storytelling is more serious, and the character designs are more mature as well. I know I keep using Amazing Digital Circus as an example, but it just works so well to illustrate my point here. See, the characters in the Digital Circus are so much more cartoony and toy-like. They're vibrant and saturated with color, with simple shapes. They all have these character archetypes that appeal to a broad audience. All of this works together to create an IP that appeals to, like, everyone, from little kids to young adults like me. TADC has very, very broad appeal. Gameoverse, on the other hand, takes more of an anime approach, for lack of a better way of putting it. There's clearly going to be fan service. A lot of the characters are either sexy, furries, badass fighters, or all of the above. These don't exactly appeal to a young audience at all. At least, I'd sure hope not. Now, sure, are Kit and misinformation goon bait? Yeah, a little bit. And that's going to reel in a huge audience of its own. You're right. The Gooners. But it just won't reach that same level of success that TADC did. See, Gameoverse also appeals to less people by being video game themed. That might catch some people off guard. And yeah, TADC took place in the virtual world too. But with TADC being more focused on character psychology, it was resonating with a lot more people than something like Gameoverse likely will. Gameoverse will definitely hit it big with gamers of all ages due to the video game references galore found within it. And to be honest, the show will likely resonate with all kinds of nerds, weebs, and the like. Like for me, one of my favorite Easter eggs in this show so far is the scene here.
Whoa.
Because it's a one-to-one recreation of this iconic scene here.
Here's a hint.
In the 1986 Transformers animated movie. Yeah, so to recap, I don't think any show, indie or not, is going to reach the level of success that the Amazing Digital Circus did for a very long time. And no current shows or pilots have any potential to do so. Not Knights of Guinevere, not Planetronica, or Helava. While Gameoverse shows immense potential with its lovable characters and sense of humor, I think it still appeals to a much less broad audience than TADC ever did. I think this logic also extends to shows like The Gaslight District. With such a muted and gritty art style, I don't think shows like this will appeal to kids or the mainstream crowd as much. Anyway, this one was kind of a long yap session. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Or do you think Gameoverse is going to be the next hit internet sensation once episodes start rolling out? Are there any particular indie shows you're looking forward to? And if you made it this far, why not leave a like? Maybe hit that subscribe button too. You know, it helps out a ton. Well, that's it for me. This is your host, Lucky, signing